Thank you to the T5 peeps, TheDragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Dark Machine, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, and Casper Arnholtz. Thank you very much. Species 401, Survey of a Dead World, written by Calamity Comet. We detected a double flash 50 light years away. It was a surefire signal that once more a species had destroyed itself. Our 4 small ships departed at once. It would be a 3-year journey. It would also be the first time I was in command of the survey. Species wiping themselves out before they became FTL capable is unfortunately one of the core laws of the universe. Mine was the only recorded species to have figured out FTL before the destruction of our homeworld. It was a sad task ours to survey the graveyards of possibility. 3 years go by so fast when the destination is a familiar tragedy. We arrived in a destination system slightly ahead of schedule. It had 8 planets and 2 large belts, a record of a previously inhabited system. We passed by 2 ice giants, blue and reserved in the cold orbits, then the large banded giant and the even larger orange one, with its great red storm brewing menacingly. Then the second belt, then a small red desert world, rigid and thoroughly dead. Then the target planet, blue and green under the wreath of white clouds. My midshipman leaned over my shoulder and pointed. "Captain Zero, look here, 70% water. Green suggests a widespread survival of vegetation after the extinction event. Sensors indicate that the atmosphere will be both breathable and within comfortable temperature extremes." This was all good news, and I nodded at her. Thank you, Alta. I was pleased that the planet would be comfortable gravity as well. I could tell that based on its apparent size alone. Its one moon was a massive in relation, almost a fourth of the size of its primary. Incredible, I said under my breath, to see another home world of a race that had once been as proud as ours. This was the purpose of my survey. The record of the deeds of the now dead race, and to catalogue their technology and works, to appreciate what they'd once been. And of course, definitely to not rob their grave. After a preliminary scan, we decided to land our scout shuttles at 8 starting locations. Mine landed near the bottom of a large island just off the northwestern coast of the largest continent. While this location wasn't the largest urban area, scans indicated that it was likely amongst the most traveled to. There was some turbulence on descent. As I puked into my bag, the other members of the survey took turns patting me on the shoulders. I was too experienced to be insulted. This was how it went sometimes. One of the advantages of surveying races that have already died out abruptly is that you don't have to worry about preparing landing zones. It's been done for you in most cases. We touched out at what must have been a very large commercial airport. Large, round-bodied aircraft with engines slung below the wings greeted us in the grey tarmac. They had held up well to the years of age despite their creators being long dead. My engineers were already astonished and enthralled. What an interesting design! Look at the winglets! And those must be turbofans. Whatever could they have been used for fuel? And the colouring! That must indicate different models. That was Cleriac. She never shut up about alien engineering once she was looking at it. That's what made her such a good chief engineer. Once the door was open, and we had confirmed the air was breathable by not instantly dying, I waved a motion to the engineers, and they took off in all directions. The vehicles just on the tarmac were apparently incredibly interesting. I made my way towards the primary terminal. 3 of my staff followed. All carried weapons slung over their shoulders. These were never used, as all races we encountered were long dead. The formality of pretending to be prepared for the first contact would end in a week or so, once it was confirmed that the aliens of this world were indeed as so long dead. Approaching the terminal, we climbed up the small mobile stair platform, and I opened the door with ease. It swung on hinges, an interesting design. Entering, we smelled nothing. This place had been dead for more than a decade. Alton nodded in my direction. Weird. How's it always so quiet? The signal that race was wiped out themselves had arrived far faster than light, but even so, we can't travel instantly. I shrugged in response. That's how it always goes. A species discovers the doomsday device, and then they activate it, and boom, they're dead. Then we see the signal and crawl to it our barely faster than light ships. Then we survey 400 times now. This will be number 401. There was no levity or bravado in my voice. This was the first survey that I had the privilege to command, but I was somehow already tired of it. My whole species was tired of it. For ages we had wondered why there was no one out here communicating over radio. Then one fateful day we learned the answer. A group of brilliant scientists on our homeworld activated the first nuclear fusion reactor. It was supposed to save our species and provide free and limitless energy. Unfortunately, it instead killed everyone on our home world instantly. Funny how that happens. Nuclear fusion requires impossibly high heat and pressure, but there's a shortcut. Just use muons coming from cosmic radiation, funnel them just the right way to prevent ionization of the target hydrogen, and you can create muonic hydrogen, which fuses at room temperature. In theory, the perfect solution to cold fusion. Every species figures it out sooner rather than later, and it promises to power all worlds with limitless energy. Except there's a cruel catch. As soon as you turn it on, you encounter a specific type of particle that tags along with muons, but it is undetectable since it travels faster than light, and that particle kills complex life without exception. Walking into the terminal, I was inundated with observations. Small bags on wheels with pull handles. We cut them open to reveal what appeared to be clothes and personal possessions. Outlines had been left in the carpet from where the bodies had fallen. 2 arms had 2 legs and 1 head. Faded images on the wall confirmed this. Symbols were everywhere. We couldn't read the language yet, but already the sociologists were guessing. The suitcases imply that they were personal and commercial species, said Bartek. The posters are likely advertisements. I'd bet my life on it. The other sociologists began to cut in. Some argued the arrangement of the body outlines indicated nuclear family arrangements, while others stated the existence of signage indicated a formal hierarchy. Already, all 8 landing parties confirmed different languages and standards of construction. This implied different nations, cultures, governments, and all the sure signs of a complex, multipolar species. One engineer who had wandered in from the outside was very disturbed to find many labeled bottles containing old flavor additives and ethanol. I hoped this was fuel, he said. Imagine if the species could metabolize alcohol. That would be a first for sure. The others agreed. The idea that species 401 could drink alcohol was put aside, though that would be unique indeed. The airport was just the start. After the preliminary survey, I ordered my group to spread out onto the surrounding city. As we had no 3D printed vehicles suitable to the environment due to the delays, we requisitioned some of the native models that had been left behind. The engineers had assured me that this particular 4-wheeled vehicle was simple enough. The fuel had been determined through trial and error to be a hydrocarbon variant. The vehicle held an average of 4 of my species. They miraculously still worked, after some coaxing. Their left pedal was the brake and the right was the accelerator. We'd never encountered a species that used wheels for steering. But, what the stars, it's not that weird of an idea. In a halting way, stopping and going awkwardly, we made our way to the greater city. My hands attached to the wheel, the chief engineer and the head sociologist argued over directions in the back seat. That sign clearly shows that there's an exit ramp. No, the green majority of species use that color instead to indicate that, you idiot, that's a highly derivative view on a complex topic of alien symbology and, I need a direction, I yelled. Both backseat drivers hesitated, so I veered off the road onto a steeply inclined turning ramp. I scraped the guardrail a tad, but we survived. And, just like that, we made our way into the city. The city was truly huge. Our computers guessed that this species had numbered nearly 9 billion before their unfortunate end. That would also be a record. Large metal and glass structures melded with more squat stone and brick houses. I finally settled on a particular building and stopped outside. But the door was locked. Cleric began rummaging for a breaching tool, but I simply held up a hand. "Please," I said, and kicked it hard near where I guessed was the handle. Thankfully, the door came open, and I didn't break any bones in my leg. Leading is about initiative, I thought with levity. The home, we assumed it was a home, was peculiar, and still in some ways it was familiar. Faded images of species 401 hung on the walls. Appliances were still allocated to certain rooms. They used stairs to reach the second floor. The floors had a mix of materials. The walls came in many different colors. Despite the broken windows and the intrusion of plants, the house appeared much as it must have been when its denizens were alive. It made me sad. At one point I swore I saw movement, but our senses detected nothing unusual. I wrote it off as nerves. We found more alcohol in labeled bottles in one of the cabinets. Unsettling. We had begun collecting electronic devices. Most of them would of course be entirely non-functional after a decade of rest. Still, engineering hoped that they could be reactivated. Our linguistic AI saw raw sample data to begin their work. Soon, we collected enough biometric and imaging information to begin piecing together the primary languages. Then we'd start brute forcing passwords, and in no time at all, we'd be able to open devices. Then we'd start getting a feeling for the species and its records, as we'd done 400 times before. And of course, we were also collecting relics, technology, anything interesting that might be of use in the colonies. I'd given clear directives to use discretion. We were not grave robbers. We had standards. But since the destruction of our homeworld, we had fairly pressing needs. Anything secret that could be gleaned from the dead world that could be of use was incredibly important. Besides, there was never anyone left to raise a complaint. All of this was routine, but what wasn't routine was my growing sense of unease. Multiple reports of sightings of large creatures were filtering in. That was not possible. My head engineer and sociology were becoming increasingly reclusive and belligerent. That was not normal. Our satellites were picking up strange signals from the one moon, and also from the red fourth planet. None of that was normal, and it was only my first time in command of a survey. Stepping out into the green yard outside yet another species 401 house, I received a message from the head of linguistics. "We have made progress. Species 401, possible name for species identified. Human." I sighed, looking up at the stars as they must have once done. "Humans," I said. Species 401 was quickly becoming unique indeed. But surely even they couldn't have somehow survived in some form. Surely. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.